Good morning again. Before we start into the content of this sermon, I have a few quick questions for you. If you agree, raise your hand and say yes. Can we agree to that? All right. Online audience, if you're in a position where you can raise your hand, you're not driving your car and all that, please participate. First question. Do you believe that you have gifts to share with the world? Yes. Do you want a life that allows you to give and support the people and things that matter to you? Yes. Are you open to learning how you can express more of your God-given talents and abilities for success and prosperity? Yes. Can you accept the possibility that you can't outgive God? Yes. Are you willing to let me help you work with this consciousness for the next 30 minutes? Yes. All right, great. Since we can all agree, tell the person on your right and left, I'm here to give my good, and so are you. Here to get my good, and so are you. The sermon title today is Giving Back to Life. Learning to give back to life has always given me extra blessings. I can remember when I taught my first class in the Johnny Coleman Institute way back in 1997. I was teaching the self-discovery class, and the book was What Are You? By Imelda Shanklin. Anybody have that book? I was 25 years old and very eager to prove that I deserved to be teaching people who were double and triple my age. One week I was teaching the chapter in the book titled The Real and the Fictitious. And the chapter focuses on what is real and truth versus temporary human experiences and facts that can change. I taught the chapter with everything in me. I was, prayed up, taught, well prepared. And then when it was time to prepare for my next class, I was in the midst of washing clothes and preparing. You know how you try to do more than one thing at the same time? And Spirit said to me right when I was washing clothes, teach the chapter again. Now, to be honest, it was clear as day. However, I told the Spirit that this was my first class, and Reverend Carey said stay on my syllabus no matter what. Honest to God truth. Her class was next door to mine, and I didn't want a chance being disobedient after I got an opportunity to teach in JCI. Well, you got to remember, this is 93. It's like 1,000 people in class. Now, Spirit said to me again, teach the chapter again. Then I was given 2 statements to write on the board and work with in class while I taught the chapter over again. The statements were, if God didn't create it, it's not real. The second statement was a quote actually from Myrtle Fillmore. And the statement is, if it doesn't measure up to the Christ standard of perfection, it can be changed. So I contemplated it. Okay, God, I know I've been given the assignment. I went into class and I wrote the statements on the board and told my students that I was instructed by my indwelling Spirit to teach the chapter over again and focus on these 2 quotes that are on the board. I taught the chapter over, and of course, I emphasized the 2 statements. Several weeks later, during the last class of the semester, I asked my class to give me some feedback. I was a new teacher, and I really wanted to, be excellent. I didn't want to be average. A lady that was always quiet in class, never spoke in class, raised her hand. And she told me that she was having a very serious health challenge during the course of the class. She had taken some medical tests before I taught the chapter, The Real and the Fictitious. And when she heard it the first time, she wanted to believe that what was on the test could be changed. But she had a hard time wrestling with the facts of the test. She said she believed, but she was wavering in her faith. Then she said, when I taught it the second time and emphasized the two statements God gave me to teach, she received a realization that she was perfect, whole, and complete. She realized that God did not create her sickness and that it was not real in spirit. She realized that anything that did not measure up to the Christ standard of perfection, the Christ presence within her, could be changed, dismissed, and disappeared. She told us that after the second time it was taught, she went back and asked for some more tests. And the doctor said everything that they saw on the previous test was gone. Everything. I often wonder, what would have happened to that lady if I was disobedient to what Spirit gave me? It has nothing to do with Gaylon McDowell. It's about being obedient. Because I obeyed, I became a conduit through which this lady could receive her miraculous healing or breakthrough. I'm sharing this story with you because I want you to know that you won't always know how, when you're giving back to life, how it can literally be a life saver for somebody else, somebody that you might never meet, ever know, but because you took a stand for truth and you were obedient to what God instructed you to do, somebody's life will get better because of your obedience. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Say, I got it, Rev. Since you got it, are you ready for some hardcore metaphysics? Great, because that's what I do. In studying how to give back to life, we are yet again studying the master of living, Jesus the Christ. There's a story about Jesus when he was a little boy found in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verses 41 through 52, that will guide us through how we can give back to life. I'm going to have it on the on the monitor up here so you can see it as I read it. Now, every year his parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up as usual for the festival. When the festival was ended and they started to return, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but his parents did not know it. Assuming that he was in the group of travelers, they went a day's journey. Then they started to look for him among relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem to search for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Child, why have you treated us like this? Look, your father and I have been searching for you in great anxiety." He said to them, "Why were you searching for me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?" But they did not understand what he said to them. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. His mother treasured all these things in her heart. and Jesus increased in wisdom and in years and in divine and human favor, end quote. In some of the old translations, like King James, the New King James Bible, they use a different term. It says, did you not know I would be about my Father's business? So this is where I want to pick up my first sermon point. The Father's business, internally and externally, versus other businesses. What is a business? I think we need to get clear about that first. A business is work that has to be done or matters that have to be attended to. The Father's business is the spiritual work you must do in your soul so you can express the higher purpose that's within you. God has placed talents, gifts, and abilities within you. And when you are about the business of developing yourself and expressing those gifts, you are about the Father's business. When you are in the consciousness of not my will, your will be done, you are in the Father's business. You're here to give birth to the goodness of God individually. And we are here to do it collectively. We all have a part to play in giving back to life with our gifts, talents, and abilities. Put your hand on your stomach, please. Repeat after me. I'm pregnant with potential. I'm pregnant with potential. Let's say it again. I'm pregnant with potential. I'm pregnant with potential. We are pregnant with God's divine ideas that are seeking expression. Just a quick poll. How many women in the room have been through labor, childbirth? Raise your hand. Okay. Ladies, keep your hands up. Can you imagine being pregnant for 20 years? You can lower your hands now. Just like a woman can't and shouldn't want to go past the 9-month term of giving birth to a baby, we can't keep the ideas, talents, and gifts that God has placed in us beyond the maturation time needed to give them back to life for and through our work and service. What am I saying? God has given it to us, but just like a woman that is pregnant, it's time to allow it to grow, then it's time for it to express. What we end up doing is we'll hold on to that idea that God gave us with dear life to the point to where it's causing pain in the soul because it wasn't meant to stay in you. It was meant to be given away. Sometimes the reason why we're upset, frustrated, angry, mad, disappointed, and disillusioned is because we're holding on to something that should be passing through us. Because after a while, even when a woman is pregnant and they go past the term, the doctor says it's time to induce the pregnancy. Because if the baby stays in too long, it will start to jeopardize your health. And I'm saying when you sit on your talents, it will jeopardize your mental and emotional health. It will jeopardize your life health. Why? Because it was meant to be expressed. Jesus taught through his example how to be about the Father's business. Jesus did his internal work and his external work. Internally, he prayed, meditated, studied, and practiced what he received spiritually. In the Gospels, you'll hear stories about Jesus went away to the mountains to pray. That was what we would now call meditation. He was contemplating the truth that was in his soul. But every time he went to the mountain to get away, to get himself centered in the truth that was revealed, he came back and did great works. He didn't sit on the power that was revealed to him. think you were getting it. Are you getting it? Externally, he went to the synagogue. He was a Jew. And studied and listened under the great Jewish teachers of his era. The scripture says he was listening to them, asking questions and giving answers. We can't contemplate Jesus going and asking people information about spirituality because that's our human concept. But Jesus had to be taught. What about us? The scripture about Jesus at the synagogue reminds me of an important point, and I want to use a few examples before I teach my point. Is that okay? Yes. He's going to love this. I mentioned him in the sermon. One of my best friends, Mike, is a bricklayer. Matter of fact, he used to work for Steve. Steve, are you back there? Hey, Steve. And he started as an apprentice, and he had to work under the masters of the craft who understood the skills needed and the results required for the craft. Notice two things: skills needed and results required. All right. My older brother, Sean, is also in the construction business. He's an operator. Those are the people that operate the big machines. He said don't drive. That's improper terminology and an insult. Operate the big machines that dig the ground and move the earth and all of that stuff. He had to learn the skill from other people who mastered the craft so he could receive the title and job of being an operator. When it comes to success, sometimes we don't like following the directions of very successful people. If a person has demonstrated a significantly higher level of success in his or her craft, much more money, much more breakthroughs, we should find out what steps they took and try to emulate them. I've been in CUT since '93, and many a good presenter has been on this platform. We've had multimillionaires on this platform. We said, this is what you do to get successful. We've been to seminars and conferences and everything else. I personally have been around their teachings. What about you? And they said, okay, read this, do this, handle that, etc. And I, along with others, somehow always decide to do it our own way and add our stuff to systems or take something out of something that already works. We're hard-headed. I'm hard-headed. See, part of breakthrough is being open to the fact that you get in your own way. If a spiritual leader says you can change your health dramatically if you visualize 20 minutes every morning, say affirmations for 5 straight minutes in the mirror, and go for a walk or outside on the treadmill for 15 minutes every day for 40 days, or a journal every night for 90 days, or whatever, don't change one thing. Not one thing. Joe Goldsmith, anybody familiar with Joe Goldsmith? Joe Goldsmith tells a story in one of his books. He says that one of his students had a hospital experience, and he was, besides being an author, he was a world-renowned spiritual healer. So he goes to the hospital. He gets to the hospital, and the family and friends are there, and he tells them why he's there, and he has one particular family member is talking about how none of that spiritual stuff works, and prayer doesn't work, and all of that other stuff. You know, he was a skeptic. So, to paraphrase, because this is not exactly what Goldsmith said, but basically Goldsmith started asking him questions about aerodynamics and missiles and planes and things of that nature. And what did he think about those things? And the man said, to him, Monte, like, why would you ask me about those things? I don't know anything about airplanes and missiles. He says, well, you know anything about spiritual healing too, but that's not stopping you from sharing your opinion. See, that's what we do. Don't know about money, but we want to tell people who make money how to make money. Don't know anything about the power of prayer, but want to tell people who know about the power of prayer, who can demonstrate the power of prayer, how prayer works. We want to tell people who have attained a sense of peace and spiritual awareness how it can and can't be done, even though we refuse to even practice the steps that are laid out directly in front of us. We don't listen. Why is it that we don't listen? Because we're too busy being in the other businesses. Let me give you a few of the businesses. Is that okay? All right. First business. We're in the fear business. We're scared to step out on our dream or big ideas because of what could go wrong. Many times we lack self-confidence and healthy self-esteem to face our fears and do it anyway. We come up with excuses because we just don't want to say we're scared. But it's the fear that's holding us back from getting the breakthroughs we desire. We're also in the procrastination business. We get caught up putting things off, kicking the can down the road. We literally watch our dreams go by. And we don't give back to life because we're lazy. Sometimes you can't fix what you won't face. Anybody here ever saw somebody work an idea that you had years before and prosper from it? Yeah, they prospered because you were lazy. Now, I know that doesn't sound nice and all pastoral, but is it okay if I just keep it real? Okay, all right. Lazy. Because we say we want things, but our actions don't always match up. So here's what's important to you, what you do. Going back to the new mothers or new fathers, no new parent wants to get up at 2 a.m. to feed a baby or change a diaper. Why do you do it? Because it's important enough to get you out of your good sleep. We say we want things, but the procrastination shows that the tongue in our mouths and the tongue in our shoes aren't going in the same direction. Now, we're in the comparison business. We're always comparing ourselves to everyone else and refusing to stand out amongst the crowd. But let me just say this about the comparison business. First of all, who cares what somebody else is doing? So what? Everybody has their journey, their call, their walk, which has nothing to do with you. Most importantly, you were meant for the spotlight, not the shadow. So when you start comparing yourself to others and you allow your light to be diminished, realize you did it to yourself. Nobody else. They only can show up to verify what you already believe about yourself. That's universal law. We're also in the hater business. Reverend Wells always says, get you some haters. We're always so busy hating on what somebody else is doing and not doing, that we aren't doing what we're supposed to be doing. When you're giving back to life, you don't have time to be petty and a hater. If people around you are screwing up, stay away from them and keep it moving. Jesus said, shake the dust off your feet. And if somebody is doing what in your mind, comparing again, exceptionally, praise them and thank God for their success. Because God is no respecter of person. Every time you see prosperity, blessings, love, and breakthroughs, thank you, God. Don't let those rocks cry out for you when you should be praising the good that's happening in somebody else's life. Don't be a hater. Then there's the I don't have enough time business. We're always saying what we don't have time to do. In the book of Joshua, not book of Joshua, I think it was Numbers. I think it might be Numbers. It's a story about, no, it's in Joshua. It's in Joshua. It's not literal, but it's telling us a story. In the book of Joshua, the Israelite army was at war with one of the tribes as they were taking over the promised land. And it was getting dark, and they knew if the night fell upon the army, they're in a new area. These people are in their area. So Joshua prayed that God stopped the sun from setting. Now, we know literally that the sun doesn't rise or set, right? But listen to what it means. If you make the choice, God will make the time. But the time manipulation doesn't happen until you make the choice. All of a sudden, you'll have more than enough time when you make up your mind. God has to work through your made-up mind. That's why it says in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 3, without faith, you can't please God. It's not talking about a human man like God. It's talking about the principle. Because God has to work through your made-up mind. Are you getting it? Then there's the poverty business. This is when you are complaining about always having a lack of funds. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, look at what you do have. And more importantly, keep your mind on what you want to experience. This is why Catherine Ponder would tell people in her books, take out your purse and your wallet and bless it. Whatever amount of money you have, bless it. Take your checkbook in your hand and bless it. Bless it and bless it with plenty and abundance. Why are you doing that? You're shifting the atmosphere around your money consciousness. Because the law says what you radiate, you must attract. Money is mental, and then it is physical. Besides, if you're giving back to life, money will find you. Money serves people who solve problems. So stop complaining and start playing a bigger game of life. Reverend Ike has an affirmation I want you to affirm after me. He would pray it this way. God, give me a money-making idea. Together. God, give me a money-making idea. So how do you play the larger game? Gospel of John, Jesus said in chapter 5, verse 19 and 20. Jesus said to them, very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing of his own, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. The Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing, and he will show him greater works than these, so that you will be astonished. When you create consistent prayer, meditation, and study practices, your indwelling spirit will direct you. It's always directing, but we don't always hear it. You will see and learn how spirit moves in the universe, others, and yourself. The more you stay in tune, the greater the works you will demonstrate. You will be astonished. If you don't have a consistent daily spiritual practice, start one today. Even if it's only 15 minutes a day. 5 minutes studying truth, 5 minutes affirming truth, and 5 minutes meditating or visualizing on truth. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do what I just said. You have to give back to life. I'm teaching you how you give back to life, but you have to prepare yourself to give back to life because you can't give out of an empty cup. Jesus went on to say, Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 through 16. He wrote, or said rather, you are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one after lighting a lamp puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before who? Others, so they may see your good what? Works, and give glory to who? Your Father in heaven. When you give back to life, you're a good example of the goodness of God in the individual life. Our friend Michael Kelly, who hasn't been here in a while, he used to say, how can I say to the lost, follow me as I follow God, and I don't have anything? I really want this sermon to land. This wasn't about the rah-rah or the cheer. This is about the breakthrough. I want you to learn something that you can use and walk out of here today that can transform your life. So how do you do it? How do you give back to life? Let me give you an example. People know God is good because of you. When you are blessed, tell people. When you get breakthroughs, celebrate them. When your life is prosperous, enjoy it. When you're happy, show it. Stop downplaying how miraculous it is to have a life that works. Last point. Taking care of yourself is giving back to life. What do you desire? What do you want to experience? Get clear that to be a change agent in the world, you must take care of yourself first. If you want to be the reason why your family has a healthy, happy, and prosperous experience in life, you must take care of yourself first. What do you want in life? What do you want to experience? So here's my suggestion as homework. Write down 100 things you want to do, experience, have, or accomplish before you make your transition. Again, write down 100 things you want to do, experience, have, or accomplish before you make your transition. You might not make it to 100, but the exercise will help you get clear on what you desire, and then you can give life back to yourself. There are things you want to do. There are things you want to experience. Everything's not big. Somebody might say, I just want to go on a paddle boat in Lincoln Park Zoo. Oh, that's kind of easy. Knock that out. Some things might be larger. Don't write how. Just what? What? One day you'll see me in my pictures of me at the Shaolin Temple practicing with the Kung Fu monks, and you'll be like, that was on his list. It's going down. Chris is going to be with me. We've talked about it. All right. I'm dead serious, too.